So, you gonna let us in? Yeah.
Marvel's latest show, Runaways, has officially arrived, kicking off with 3 episodes, so let's break them all down right here on What Happened. How's it going, everyone? Lisa here, and a show that I've really been looking forward to, Marvel's Runaways, has finally arrived on Hulu. And to kick off the season, they've gifted us with not 1, but 3 episodes, and I'm going to talk about them all in this one video. Just a disclaimer though, I'm a fan of comic book based TV shows, but was never exposed really to comics to read as a child. So please forgive me if I don't pick up on various Easter eggs, or if I don't know what's going to happen with certain plot points in the future that you as a comic reader might know. I'm just watching this as a fan of TV. Just a quick little review of the show. From the first episode, I was really drawn in, I was intrigued, and it has a cast of mainly unknown young actors, with the exception of maybe like Greg Sulkin and that kid who was on the last season of Teen Wolf. The parents obviously a little more well known, and it can be risky having a show with mainly unknown stars, but I was pleasantly surprised. Like, these kids are really good. And the show itself, it's kind of like Breakfast Club meets The Skulls meets Marvel, and I'm really here for it. Plus there's like a dinosaur on the show, so yeah, hell yeah, I am in. The first episode, Reunion, introduces us to our teen heroes and, well, as the title of the episode suggests, reunites them. It seems like they haven't really spoken in 2 years since one of their group, Amy, died, and it affected the kids in different ways. We have Alex, who's kind of the loner of the group, and his parents are really rich, and they are Jeffrey and Catherine. His dad works in real estate, but seems like he may have done some mobster-type gang stuff back in the day. His mom is a lawyer. We have Chase, the jock, who we first meet without a shirt, which I'm not too mad at, and he may be bad at Spanish, but he does have a knack for engineering and inventing, like his famous dad, Victor, who's a pretty scary dude. Yeah, he's got a temper. Chase's mom is Janet, who kind of feels like a pushover. Then there's Nico, who is the loner goth of the group, and it's her sister Amy who died. She seems pretty into witchcraft and stuff, and her parents are Tina, a CEO of a tech company, and Robert. The quirkiest of the group is Gert, who rocks purple hair and is trying to start a new club at school to take down the man. Her adopted sister is Molly, and their parents are scientists Dale and Stacy, who are definitely not like the other parents. They're basically the hippie scientists of the group. Lastly is Karolina, the picture-perfect, pretty blonde who hides behind a smile and is the daughter of Leslie and Frank, who run the Church of Gaborum, which is basically like a Scientology church or a cult in this world. All the parents belong to a mysterious organization called The Pride, which they say is a group that basically raises funds for things like building schools. The episode opens with a girl named Destiny who is a runaway. Destiny ends up getting into a van with 2 ladies who come from this Church of Gaborum. We then jump 6 months later with our introductions to the kids and the parents. It's the anniversary of Amy's death, and Alex playing a video game he used to play with her that he hasn't played in a while. Chase is getting reprimanded by his dad about his Spanish grade. Nico goes into Amy's room to take some tights, which her mom is not happy about. Karolina wants her mom to sign up her mission slip so she can go to San Francisco for an art field trip that night, but her mom says no since they have this big Vanity Fair interview that same day. And Gert and Molly, they're being dropped off at school, and it seems like Molly's having some really bad cramps, courtesy of, puberty, right? Alex watches as all his former friends walk through the courtyard ignoring each other, and he decides that maybe it is time to get the gang back together, so he calls his parents to ask if they can have them over. And Catherine says she'll have pizza ready for the 6 of them while the parents have their pride meeting. Jeffrey, on the other hand, is a little concerned about the kids being in the house now during the pride meeting because they're a lot older now, and this seems to set off red flags that these parents and their pride meeting are not a good thing. We then see the 2 of them emerge into some kind of underground chamber where a bunch of red robes are hanging, and we also see Leslie go into a super white room at the Church of Gaborum where there's a person in a bed whose skin is like peeling and crusty and gnarly, burnt or something, kind of gag worthy, and that person is hooked up to some kind of alien looking respirator thing. But Leslie tells that person that tonight another becomes eternal. What exactly does that mean? In class, Alex attempts to recruit his former friends for the reunion, so he approaches Chase first, who we see working on designs for some pretty cool fist contraptions. Alex figures if he can get Chase on board, maybe the others will fall, into line, but sadly, it doesn't work and no one wants to do this reunion. In this episode, we have 2 of our characters realize they have some kind of powers. Okay, one realizes it more so than the other. Molly and her so-called period cramps get the best of her, and while she's in the nurse's office, the pain builds so much that all of a sudden we see her eyes glow, and it seems like she has super strength. Now Molly's super excited by this and runs home to test out this power, which only seems to happen when she maybe freaks out or feels like she's in danger. Testing out her powers, though, sucks all the energy out of her, and we see her pass out on the floor. Karolina is the other member of the group who gets a glimpse at her powers but doesn't quite know what they are. After being called brainwashed at school and trying to keep up with that picture-perfect image for her mother's Vanity Fair interview, Karolina asks Destiny, yeah, that girl from the beginning of the episode, what rebelling is like. Karolina then heads off to a party where she's offered a pill and heads out to the dance floor. There we get our first hint that she may be gay, like I've read that she is in the comics, as she watches a female couple make out on the dance floor. She then decides to take off her Church of Gaborim bracelet, and we see her arms start to turn like pink and rainbow colors and sparkle, and it seems like maybe Karolina is tripping on that pill, right? Well, she ends up passing out too, just like Molly did, and she's carried upstairs by Chase's two skeezy friends. Thankfully though, Chase shows up just in time to stop the two friends from attempting to rape her. As Chase and Karolina leave the party, Karolina drops the pill out the car window, which means she wasn't tripping at all. So why were her arms lighting up like that? As with any high school set show, even one with superheroes, there's bound to be a character pining over another who is out of their league, or the classic nerdy one likes the popular one. In this case, it relates to Gert and Chase. So Gert overhears Chase pleading with his Spanish teacher for a better grade and extra credit, but the teacher isn't budging, so Gert decides to offer her tutoring skills because it means she can be close to Chase and his muscles and all of that. And Chase accepts the offer for that night. But then he gets a better offer, which is that party that he ends up going to where he saves Karolina. This means Gert ends up getting stood up at the coffee shop, and later she gets a call from Molly, who has ventured into the York's basement and has seen some kind of giant lizard thing in a door that she wasn't supposed to go look in. It's also hinted at in this episode that there's something between Alex and Nico, or maybe there used to be something and Alex still has feelings for Nico. Nico heads to the beach to attempt a spell or incantation to maybe bring back her sister Amy or at least talk to her, but it doesn't end up working and she has a cry fest on the beach. After all the events of these kids, the five of them end up on Alex's doorstep after all, and they head to the guest house where things are pretty awkward for a bit. Eventually, everything starts to blow up as Chase blames Alex for everyone's falling out since Alex didn't even attend Amy's funeral. Eventually, they decide that, okay, we really need to sit and talk about everything that's going on, but in order to do so, Chase decides he needs some alcohol, and against Alex's wishes, he heads to Jeffrey's study where he knows the good stuff is. While they're all in the study, they notice their parents' purses and stuff are still in that room, but where are their parents? When Alex goes to grab a coaster for one of the drinks, he discovers it's actually a switch that opens the bookcase to a secret passage. And of course, curiosity killed the cat, right? The kids decide to head down into that passageway, and they come upon their parents who are gathered around some kind of alien-looking pod or tub or table or something, and they're wearing their red robes. Now there's a barrier of some kind between the two groups, so they can't hear each other. They then see Leslie bring out a girl in a white robe who is actually Destiny, and the parents gather around her and put her inside of that pod thing. Now Gert doesn't want Molly to see what's going on, so she pushes her to the back, but Molly, she wants to see, so she pulls out her phone to take a picture, which sets off a flash that catches the attention of the parents, and the kids go running. But the parents don't actually see the kids, so they have no idea what happened or what that flash was. And now we move on to episode 2, which rewinds to the events of the same day, but from other perspectives, which are mainly of the parents. Episode 2 opens with the kids running back upstairs and the parents trying to figure out what the flash was. Molly uses her super strength to open the bookcase since the kids somehow missed the button on the wall while running up in a panic. They run back to the guest house while trying to figure out what on earth they saw as Alex runs off and turns off all the power to cover up the flash. And then we head to the events of earlier that day. For Victor and Janet, we learn that Janet may be having some kind of affair or something with another member of the Pride, as she's heard on the phone telling the person that she was supposed to call them, but she can't wait to see them that night at the meeting, even with them there, with like Victor there. Janet then goes down to check on Victor, who is working on that alienish black pod table thing that we saw the Pride stick Destiny in the last episode. It seems like maybe it's some kind of transporter or something, as we see Victor put a rat in it and activate the pod, but when he reopens it, the rat is still there, which it's not supposed to be. So Victor's pretty stressed that his machine isn't working, and we know that he does not like failure, and they needed that machine for the ceremony that night. Robert and Tina are dealing with the anniversary of Amy's death in different ways. Robert's trying to fix the trophy and convince Tina she needs to have more compassion, otherwise they're going to lose their only daughter left alive, Nico. Tina, meanwhile, decides no one should be in Amy's room ever and goes to grab her staff from her office, the same one used to make that protection seal in the basement. She then seals Robert in the room. He eventually gets through to Tina though, and she decides maybe they can just padlock Amy's room for now. For Dale and Stacy, they are driving back home and taking some jabs at Victor because it seems like they might be the odd couple out when it comes to the Pride. Dale seems to have forgotten that they have a Pride meeting that night and he really doesn't want to go. We also see that Stacy's pretty proud of that creature in the basement. Yeah, she watches it on a feed. Jeffrey's past comes back to haunt him in this episode as one of his old gang buddies or rivals named Darius Davis shows up to the construction site of the school that the Pride is building to cause some trouble. Catherine tells Jeffrey to just pay Darius off, but Jeffrey says that, if he does that, Darius is just going to keep coming back for more money. She tells him to handle it because nothing can jeopardize that construction site. Jeffrey then goes to confront Darius, and instead of giving him money, Darius learns that Jeffrey is keeping an eye on Darius's Nana's house, so if Darius does anything to mess with the building of that school, yeah, Nana's gonna bite the dust. The two quarrel some more, and Jeffrey tells Darius that he wants him gone and to not come back or he'll destroy his world. Jeffrey then gets his phone back, but not before Darius's sidekick has copied information from it. So watch out, Jeffrey. Darius has one up on ya. As for Leslie, she's in trouble because Destiny has made a run for it. She's booked a bus ticket home because it turns out that she has a daughter who turns 3 that day and she promised she wouldn't miss another birthday. And now that she thinks her life is doing better, she's ready to go back home. Leslie shows up and ends up convincing Destiny to put her trip off for a few days by telling Destiny that she's shown real promise in the church and maybe she's ready to move up and go ultra, whatever that means. Frank, who is the only parent not part of the Pride it seems, gets a visit from his acting agent who informs him that he's dropping him because, well, Frank's no longer the teen heartthrob he used to be and he's not really getting any acting jobs. It seems like the church has taken over. We also learn that Leslie owns the whole church and the agent tells Frank that maybe he should try to get a little piece of that. The conversation inspires Frank to go talk to Leslie and tell her that he does want to be a bigger part of the church and he is ready to go ultra, but Leslie just does not want to hear it. He then ends up going to the church to snoop while Leslie is at the Pride meeting, and he goes through her calendar to see all these private meditation appointments. He then tries to get into her private meditation room, but does not have access. We see that on the other side of that private meditation room door is actually the pod where the gross, peeling, old, crusty dude is living, and I'm guessing that maybe it's Leslie's father or something, who they mentioned died of testicular cancer. And if it's not him, who is this guy and why is he so important? Why is he hooked up to the same pod that they put Destiny into? As the parents gather at the Wilder house, Leslie presents Destiny's file as a good candidate for whatever they're about to do. Well, Destiny's going to be their next sacrifice, and it seems like the sacrifice is always 17 years old. But now that their kids are that same age, around 17, Jeffrey is really feeling bad about what they're doing to these kids. Despite their hesitations and actually their consciences telling them maybe that what they're doing is wrong, the parents go ahead and put on their robes in an unnecessary, sexy sort of montage. Like, why do they have to strip down to their underwear if they're just putting on a red robe? Can't they put it over their clothes? We see Leslie give a call telling someone that they're ready, and then we see the old peely dude in a pod identical to the one that they have in the secret chamber. They then begin the ceremony and put Destiny in the pod, closing it, and they assume everything has gone according to plan when they see that flash of light from Molly's phone. Catherine and Jeffrey go to investigate, and it looks like Alex switched off all the breakers to make it look like the flash was part of a power surge. The two then go check on the kids in the guest house, and we see the kids pretending to play Twister and being happy like it's good old times. Both parties seem to buy these excuses. Eventually everyone disperses and we see Alex and Nico have a moment in the bathroom. Gert sings Molly a sweet lullaby as the dinosaur in the basement listens as well. And unfortunately for the parents, their little ceremony, it doesn't seem to work because as Victor is packing up that pod, he hears banging inside, and when he opens it, Destiny is still in there alive asking for help. And now you just gotta wonder how he's gonna cover this up, because we know that he is not a man who likes failure, especially at his own hands. The episode ends with Alex texting the group to meet the next day at 10 a.m. as Jeffrey steps on a cat pin near the bookshelf, which lets him know that one of the kids has been in the office after all. Now this episode slowed things down a little after a great premiere episode, but I liked that it let us know that these parents have more depth too. They're not just pure evil. We get to see that they do have scars and regrets. They don't all get along, and they have, consciences that are starting to now come into play with all the bad stuff they've been doing over the years. But what are these parents really up to? Why is that construction site so important? Who is the old dude, and what is this whole ritual, like, with the pod thing? Oh, I should also mention that Karolina decides to check in on Destiny, even though she thinks that, she's inside that pod. She sends her a text to check in, and we see at the end of the episode, she starts to get typing bubbles back. So who has Destiny's phone? Let's move on to episode 3 to see if we get any answers to these questions. We begin 10 years ago at the funeral for Molly's parents, who are also part of the Pride. Seems like they died in a fire, and some of the other Pride members are suspicious of each other. Tina has a wrap on her hand, which Robert says is from a frying pan, but Jeffrey, he doesn't seem to be buying that excuse and thinks that maybe they had something to do with the Hernandez's death. Dale and Stacy are pretty nervous too that the other members of the Pride will find out that they spoke to the Hernandez's that night of the fire. They need to find a way to protect themselves from something, so what do these two know? They also made me feel some kind of guilt as we see them taking Molly. Now back to the present day. For the parents, we learn that Dale and Stacy work at Synergy, and they've made some kind of Synergy serum which apparently helps people forget a lot of bad things. Robert and Tina, who we know these two couples don't like each other, happen to be angel investors in this experiment and show up to surprise the Yorks with the news that their serum is on the cover of a medical journal, and now they can sell it and make some big bucks. This serum, though, is bad news, as we also learn in the episode it's been used on Frank Dean, and they say he's never quite been the same since. So what did Frank maybe uncover or learn that forced this group to use it on him? Was he part of the Pride and they sort of kicked him out by using this serum? Looks like these parents kind of don't give a crap about who they really hurt back in the day, and some don't even care about who they hurt in the present day, as Catherine is determined to find out if Molly saw anything that night because she knows the cat pin belongs to her. And if Molly does know something, Catherine is really ready to use the serum on the girl, which Jeffrey is against. Yeah, what a cold-hard bitch, right? Well, Molly is freaking out because she can't find that cat pin, which we learn is something that her mother gave her. Little does she know it's in the hand of the Wilders. She then once again attempts to tell Gert that she thinks there's something wrong with her, but Gert just chalks it up to being a panic attack. Poor kid, right? Molly later goes to the coffee shop where she runs into Catherine, who just coincidentally happened to drop in for some tea. Catherine returns the cat pin, which now has Molly freaking out, and Molly knows something is up, so she excuses herself to the bathroom, blaming it on puberty changes. She uses her powers to break out of the bathroom, but ends up passing out by the dumpster. Since Molly never returned, Catherine knows Molly knows something, and she ends up finding her by the dumpster and drives her out to the middle of nowhere. Keeping her hand on the serum ready to inject Molly at a moment's notice, Catherine asks Molly if everything is okay with her. Molly fesses up that she was actually somewhere she wasn't supposed to be, and that place was the study that night. She says that she was sent there to be the lookout because the kids wanted to raid the liquor cabinet and wanted to make sure the parents were gone, and since she's the youngest, she had to do it. Plus, she'd be less likely to get in trouble for it. Then she kind of has a little mini meltdown and says that she wishes she knew more about her parents. Thankfully, though, Catherine is convinced that Molly is really telling the truth and doesn't know anything about what happened that night, so she takes her hand off the serum and instead offers to tell Molly more about her parents. Going back to Dale and Stacy, they're happy about their serum and they believe that they can now stop hurting people, and they end up ordering a ton of food to take back to their friend downstairs, aka that dinosaur that lives in the basement, who we learn is their guard dog and part of their secret plan. That secret plan is to move away with the dinosaur as their guard dog or protection. Now they just have to figure out how to tell the girls. So why do they need protection? Why are they running away? For Robert and Tina, their relationship is on the rocks, and Tina is doing her best to put some spark back into it, a la 50 Shades of Grey. But Robert, he's just not into it. She's shut him out for 2 years, and so he's pretty much moved on because, yep, he is the one having that affair with Janet. And it turns out that he got the two an apartment, and he's ready to tell Tina he wants to leave her. Janet, on the other hand, she's not ready to make that big leap, most likely because she's probably scared of Victor, because I would be. Victor is also stressed out after his failure with Destiny and the pod. He's fallen asleep in his lab and keeps having visions of Destiny, but she's not really there, so what did he do to get rid of her? Where is she? Now let's jump over to the kids. They all meet up on the beach, and Karolina is actually happy because she ended up getting a text back from Destiny with a photo of her and Big Ben saying that she got a last-minute spot on the church trip to London. Well, that photo just screams, hey, I was made with Photoshop, and thankfully Nico notices that too. The kids decide that maybe they should split up to each do their own investigation work. Molly also brings up the monster in their basement, but of course no one believes little poor Molly. Gert of course volunteers to go with Chase, and when Karolina stops to talk to Chase real quick, we see Gert get defensive and territorial, and it's like, girl, just calm your horses, Gert, back off a little. At this point, her character hasn't totally won me over, but then I have to take a step back and remember that this is from the creators of the OC. It's a high school show in a sense, so petty crushes and jealousy, stuff like that, is expected. We know that Karolina isn't interested in Chase, but she just wanted to check in with him because those two douchebag friends of his posted pictures of their beat-up faces, saying they wanted to kick Chase's ass and perhaps it was over a girl. Chase just says that he's fine and the whole fight was about lacrosse stuff and not about a girl. Lies, Chase, lies. Chase and Gert team up to snoop around Victor's lab and find some pretty cool X-ray goggles, which Gert, of course, uses to take a peek at Chase's junk. Anyway, the two end up finding the pod hidden in the lab and use the X-ray goggles to see that the box is empty, so they think maybe all is good and Destiny really is in London. They then decide to head over to check out what Molly said about the creature in the basement at Gert's house. There they end up coming face to face with the dinosaur, which causes Gert to freak out, but then she manages to kind of calm herself, and I'm pretty sure Chase says in this episode that that dinosaur is linked to her somehow. The sound of a car arriving, though, ends up scaring the dinosaur off, and I don't think Dale and Stacy are going to be too happy about that. I mean, it seems like there's going to be a dinosaur running amok in the house, and if he's not in the house, then he's going to be running around town somewhere. Alex opens up the bookcase in his dad's office, only to find out that his dad has actually returned home sooner than he thought and is in the kitchen. He manages to stall long enough to get that thing closed somehow before his dad notices. Nico heads to her mom's office and tries to get the case for the staff to open, but nothing works. She then snoops through her mom's desk and finds one of Amy's diaries in the bottom drawer, and then somehow the case has been manually overridden and Nico grabs the staff and activates it. When Nico goes through Amy's diary, she finds a paper snowflake that reminds, obviously, her of her sister. And because of that and the fact that she's holding the staff, it starts snowing in the office, and Nico can't figure out how to make it stop, so she calls Alex for help. They eventually get the snow to stop when Alex tries to grab the staff from Nico, but it shocks him or burns him or something, and he drops it to the ground where the staff shuts off. Since Tina is on her way home thanks to the notifications of the smart house, the two kids frantically clean up all the snow and then pretend to be making out in Nico's room when Tina returns home solo. When Nico walks Alex out, he gives her a kiss, which she pretends like she didn't like and didn't want, but as she walks back into the house, she's all smiles, as is Alex. For Karolina, she goes walking around the church and tries to call Destiny again, but the number has now been disconnected. She then runs into Vaughn and asks him if he's ever taken off his bracelet. He says he has a few times, and then she asks him if he's seen the lights too, but he's confused about what she's talking about. They also happen to be standing in front of a painting her grandfather did, which shows a woman kind of flying or something, and her body painted in the colors of pink and rainbow sort of stuff. Pretty much like what Karolina saw her own body turn into the night that she took her bracelet off. Now, what's up with the crusty old guy in Leslie's private meditation room? Well, Leslie goes to check on him and she says it's never taken this long before for him to feel better because he says he feels nothing. As she leaves, she runs into Vaughn, who asks about Destiny but is interrupted by a call from Tina, who says to turn on the news. On the TV is a news report, and it seems like Destiny's body has washed up on the beach. And now Leslie understands why Krusty Krab is not getting any better, and she says they're going to need another sacrifice. Okay, so who exactly is Krusty Dude? All these young sacrifices must be keeping him alive, right? Or healing him? It's also mentioned again in the episode how once ground breaks on the school, the Pride won't have to worry about anything anymore, so what's so special about that land or the school? But for me, more importantly, why did they have to use the serum on Frank? And what really happened to Molly's parents? Well, that wraps up the first 3 episodes of the show, and I am excited to see what's in store. I mean, the first episode was great, the next 2 slowed things down a little bit, but still kept my intrigue, my curiosity. Now let's check out the promo for episode 4.
We need a replacement, now. I'm going to the police after school.
What are you even gonna say? I'm gonna make damn sure that they can't hurt me. I suggest you all do the same. What's going on? However she got out, we need to find her fast.
There must be something that I can do.
Okay, more of the dinosaur. Yeah, that's actually what I'm most excited for, I think. It kind of gives me Jurassic Park feels, and I really like it. Anyway, Runaways airs Tuesdays on Hulu, but until the next episode, hit me up in the comments to let me know what you think of the show so far. Do you have a favorite character? If you liked the comics and you read those, are you happy with the show so far? I know things are going to be kind of different, so are you liking the changes? Let me know all your thoughts, predictions, ideas, whatever, and then you can check out all my Stranger Things Season 2 episode recaps right over here or one of my recent interviews. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for another TV recap. Sorry this one was so long, but you stuck in there with me. I'll see you very soon.